Good day, my plant foldies. This is Richie at Grow Folds, and today we'll be big box store plant shopping at the Lowe's off of North Custer Road in Prosper, Texas. As always, please hit the like button for this video if you like daily 1-hour plant shopping videos, as well as following me on Instagram at Grow Folds. If you want to connect with me directly, that's the fastest way to do so. So my plant foldies, and for those that are new to the channel, I call my viewers and subscribers plant foldies. I am doing a night shopping video at this Lowe's. You know that I've already been to this Lowe's several times, but I want to see if they've actually gotten any new plants today. So we're going to see what kind of plants they have available. So the good thing about plant shopping at night is there's not nearly as many people shopping, so it's easier for me to maneuver around, as well as it's a lot cooler to be outside as well. So I am based out in North Dallas, and the way the weather has been, the climate has been like 100 degrees, and it's just been super hot and not really the best environment for me to just be walking around. But as you can see right here, there's not a lot of people here. So I'm going to actually go out to the outdoor garden section first. I know you guys want to see some of the indoor tropical plants, but I definitely want to go check out some of the plants outside to see if they've downsized on some of their plants. But you can see right here, there are quite a bit of indoor plants. So we're going to take a look at that as well. I know the last Lowe's video, I saw a bunch of new live trends planters and plants. So we're going to see if they have any new planters or if Urban Jungle has some new plants. So we'll take a look at that in just a bit. But let's go ahead and take a look at what they have outside in the outdoor section. So it is summer, and what I'm realizing now as I do big box store plant shopping videos is in the summertime, a lot of big box stores start to downsize their plants, especially in the garden section. So we're going to see what they have here. You can see that this is a quintessential plant that you'll see in any big box store. Actually, this is a cordyline Hawaiian tea plant. This one is a beautiful dark foliage plant. This one is for, I believe, $19, somewhere around there, $19.98. Now, with this plant, you do want to provide it with a lot of light. I've actually grown mine in outdoors, full sun. Growing a cordyline plant indoors is actually challenging because I've said this in all of my videos, but it just tends to get spider mites. So it's best to just grow it outdoors. And then you can see right here, this is a Costa Farms Trending Tropicals plant. This is not a Trending Tropicals plant, Exotic Angels hanging basket. Sorry, this one is for $20.84. This is a Philodendron Hederaceum Brazil. Now with Philodendron Hederaceum Brazil, the variegation is really influenced by the amount of light you provide it. So if you actually give it a lot of light, it'll give you a lot of that bright neon color striping. Really like that a lot. And with the Philodendron Hederaceums, there are so many different varieties. So the ones I have in my plant collection would be a Philodendron Hederaceum Brazil, Rio, Silver Stripe, and I got a Gabby. And you know, the Philodendron Hederaceum Gabby is super rare. I was actually able to get it from another YouTuber by the name of Planting with Pete. So Pete, so thankful you were able to get me a couple of cuttings. They have rooted, and I should be planting them in soil substrate very soon. But as you can see here, plant foldies, beautiful trailing Philodendron Hederaceum Brazil. Now, the one thing I will say is this plant will get leggy if you don't provide it enough bright light. I think that's a lot of with a lot of plants. They tend to shoot either longer trailing trails of vines or just runners because it's looking to try and grab onto something to attach on a pole. That's really the natural way they grow in the wild. And then you can see here, this is a spider plant, specifically the Bonnie. Bonnie is the one that has like the curling leaves of it. I love this hanging basket right here. And for the most part, it doesn't really have any brown crisping on the leaves. Spider plants tend to do that, especially when you don't give it the best water. It is a little bit more sensitive to the water you give it. They prefer more purified distilled water versus tap water. That hard water will tend to like give it browning leaves, or at least the tips of it. The one thing you can do to fix it is actually taking a pair of scissors and just cutting off the browning leaves. It doesn't really hurt the plant, but as you can see here, it's already given out a lot of babies. And you can see on this end right here for $19.84 as well is just the hanging baskets of the regular spider plant. And you can see that these spider plants are actually pushing out a lot of little babies. What you can do is actually cut them up if you'd like, and then you can actually propagate them in water. They already have some of these little aerial roots right here. They should root pretty fast in water, and that's the thing I've been doing to plant foldies is I've gotten in the routine of propagating some of my plants. I've gotten some of my syngoniums to root. Actually, I cut them a couple days ago and they already have some water roots, so I'm excited about that. And the thing about, you know, saving money on plants, we can go to big box stores and take a look at these plants. Like for instance, this one is a Fatsa japonica or Japanese Aralia. This is for $22.98. Really like that as well, and that is another plant I want to add to my collection. The good news is, plant foldies, is I spent my birthday, which was yesterday, August 7th. I turned 42, and I spent a lot of time doing plant chores. I had a wonderful lunch. This past weekend, I went to a place called the Sushi Bar in downtown Dallas. The best sushi I've ever had in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, probably in just any sushi place. And I've been to a lot of sushi bars and sushi places. That's one of my favorite foods. But I did spend a lot of time doing some plant chores. And that's the thing about plant care, is the chores. That's the part that we may not always like. So I took a lot of time spraying down my plants with some of my plant foldy mist. Neem oil spray, a DIY mix that I make. If you're actually interested in the recipe, you basically take a conventional spray bottle that you can get from any store. You can get 2 tablespoons of cold pressed neem oil, 2 tablespoons of rubbing alcohol, 2 tablespoons of hydrogen peroxide, 1 drop of dishwashing soap, liquid soap, and then also filling it up with water. Shake, 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 spray it on your plants, and it is good to go. But I did that. I spent a lot of time cleaning my plants. I've spent a lot of time cutting off some dead leaves. I spent time watering my plants, and I know that sounds like such a foreign concept. I have to make fun of myself when I talk about watering my plants, because I'm not the best at staying on top of that. But I went ahead and took a bunch of my plants, brought them to my rain forest shower head, and just showered them with water, and they look so happy. I also spent some time fertilizing some of my plants. And if you didn't see my video from yesterday, plant foldies, I also got an import from Green Spaces ID, which is an online shop in Indonesia that I was able to import some plants. I did a review, so if you didn't get a chance to watch that video, please watch that video. It is awesome. And if you want a discount of 20% off of your order, just use the promo code Richie20. So super excited to share that, and I hope you guys will consider importing plants, because, you know, if you go to a big box store like this at Lowe's, and I've just panned out on a lot of these plants, you'll notice that there's a lot of tropical plants left, like these mandevillas, for instance. These plants actually originally come from a lot of places like Southeast Asia, Indonesia. It definitely has a lot of these plants, and I have actually, always think that importing plants are a little bit risky, because you never know what seller you're going to get, whether you're going to get scammed or not, but or just even the health of the plants, because I was super impressed that Green Spaces ID was able to get me some healthy plants and was able to get it delivered to me safely, even though Texas has been getting 100+ degree weather. I was really afraid that they were going to fry by the time they got here, but they did not. So that is a huge plus for me, and that brings me a lot of joy in the fact that it was such an easy process. But as you can see here, the sun has gone down, and Lowe's has downsized. At least this particular Lowe's doesn't have nearly as many outdoor plants as they used to. I will show you a couple of products I use. So these are Miracle Grow fertilizing products. I use this liquid plant fertilizer as well. That one's a mild one for some of my starter plants. And then I also use a shake and feed Miracle Grow. I actually end up buying it at Costco though, because I feel like Costco tends to be more cost effective. I also use watering can singles. That that is really easy as well. So if I'm watering and wanting to fertilize my plants, it takes the guessing game of having to measure the scoops out. But Miracle-Gro, some people have mixed opinions about their fertilizers. For me, I've used it for a good decade or so, and they've always been very good to my plants. They end up giving them some really good size and vigor. So I would recommend Miracle-Gro. I can go into more in-depth analysis on Miracle-Gro fertilizers, but that is a good fertilizer to use on your plants. Now, for $10.98, we have what these call SunPatiens. They've actually got a similar stem texture as like a Rex begonia or begonia. It's kind of cane-like, but you can see that green and yellow variegation on the leaves is really cool. But what's interesting about SunPatiens is they are basically impatiens that can be grown in the sun or full sun. And usually impatient flowers have to stay in more of a shaded area. But as you can see with plants hybridizing and plants just kind of evolving, they get more of these characteristics where they can become a little bit more tolerant of the sun, which I really like. That's the same thing with coleus plants. Coleus plants tend to be a little bit more on the shaded area side, but they also have what they call sun coleus. So that's cool. But you can see here for $10.98, these are SunPatiens. This one is a little bit more of a full version of that plant. I would assume that if you give this more sun, that this plant will actually give you better blooms and just better variegation as well. Now, for my grow zone, which is 8B, this plant would be more of an annual plant. This is definitely not a perennial plant. It's not something that would just grow back year after year. I would say you can grow it as an annual, at least in my grow zone, or grow it in a container where you could potentially overwinter it or take it inside. Now, the thing about plants and overwintering them is it is a very challenging and difficult thing to do, especially for my climate where it basically is just a hard freeze or just super cool. You got to imagine taking these plants indoors or even in a garage. You're not providing it with the best lighting conditions. Even putting them under a grow light, it's still fairly cold. So it's not the easiest process to do so. And then on top of that, having so many plants to pick and choose from and trying to maintain it over the winter is almost a bigger plant chore or challenge. So some plants are really just meant to be annuals, or some plants are just not meant to be put in your collection. I've started to really realize that as when I took a trip to the Philippines, a lot of those plants actually just grew out in their natural environment, so they didn't really require a lot of plant care. I'm starting to really just think about the plants I put in my collection where they're easy care plants. And what I mean by easy care plants is they're more so drought tolerant. They can be a little bit more lower light tolerant, and they're a little bit less pest prone. Those are the three factors that I'm starting to really put in for my plant collection. Obviously, that changes if I find a plant that I just really want to add, but for the majority of my plants that I'm going to add in my collection, that's what I want to do. But as you can see here, plant foldies, we've got some more of these containers of lantana, and this is a plant that I love so much to grow in a outdoor space because it is one that loves the full sun. It can tolerate really hot weather, as in like 100+ degree weather. It is also drought tolerant, and it is also a perennial in my grow zone. And you can see here, this is for $12.98. It's also a fast growing plant with little maintenance. So like that is such a win for any plant that's going to be outdoors, especially in a Texas landscape. For those that don't know what the term perennial means, it means that this plant is a plant that will go through a growing season. So it will go through grow through spring, summer, fall, and perhaps die in the winter, and then come back in the spring or late or early summer. So that is a plant that I definitely want to add into my landscape. I think putting perennials in your garden is actually cost effective because then you're not having to buy the plant year after year. It is basically a permanent plant, and I am there for it. And then over here, plant foldies. I know you guys like some of these succulents. I like admiring succulents, so it has become more of a routine for me now whenever I do big box store plant shopping videos to actually show you plants, succulent plants and cactus. While I don't know a lot about cactus or succulents, I do find them fascinating because for the most part, they just have different textures. And then these ones right here, $12.98 for this particular succulent or cactus. There's just many varieties. Now, the basic care tips for succulents is obviously a lot of light, bright light. Some will also need full sun. Water when the soil is completely dry. If you're going to repot them or put them in a substrate that it requires these to be a little bit fast draining. So using cactus or succulent mix is important because you need fast draining soil. Same thing with agaves too. They need fast draining soil. They also need a lot of sun. This one is for $36.98. I like the variegation of this one as well. The only thing about agave is you have to really be careful on the edges of their leaves because they're very prickly. Now, agave can grow in my grow zone, which is 8B. So that's something I could put in my landscape. And then this one right here is another succulent for $39.98. You can see that looks more like ground cover, which looks really cool. And then next to it is, actually next to it are some ponytail palms. So I think ponytail palms are really cool. And this one right here has a really big caudex. This one's for $64, but you can see that the trunk is super thick and it has 2 shoots out of it. Now ponytail palms are actually not legitimate palms. They are more succulent plants. So that being said, they do not like to be overwatered. So you want to make sure that the ponytail palm soil remains pretty much dry. Wait till it dries out completely for a really good soak. And again, we have that Miracle Grow plant food. That's exactly what I use, this all-purpose plant food fertilizer. It's a powder that you put in your water and you mix it up and then you water your plants. It's instant feeding because it is in a water form. Now, I also prefer using Osmocote, which is a slow release fertilizer. If you are curious to see some of the products I use for my plants. And then over here for $9.98 is another type of aloe vera plants. So I didn't realize again that aloe veras have so many different varieties of plants. It's interesting that, you know, there are many varieties because for the most part, I always thought about the conventional one that has like smooth edges on its leaves. So that one is actually very prickly. And then over here, you can see we've got a crown of thorns. Crown of thorns, I like the variegated version as well, but that's a nice little crown of thorns. It's got peach flowers. And then over here, plant foldies for $9.98 is another type of kalanchoe. Now, kalanchoe typically don't look like this, but you can see that that one has more of a ghostly texture on it, a velvety texture, which makes it even more interesting. And then we also have more assorted succulents here for $9.98. So plant foldies, I'm just curious if you have started to grow more succulents, if that's something that you like. I tend to just admire succulents because when it comes down to it, I haven't really done a lot of research on particular succulents. So I don't like to bring plants in my home, especially if I don't know a lot about them. That's just something that I will do as a favor for myself. Like right over here, this is a really cool kalanchoe fangs, for instance. What a cool looking plant. And if you touch it, it is thick and it has a really hard texture on its leaves. But for the most part, I always give people advice on growing plants indoors. If you don't know a lot about the plant care tips for a plant, I wouldn't recommend just buying it at a big box store. I would do some research on it and then possibly just see if your growing environment in your home is what will fit the plant. Like, you got to think that the lighting conditions, the amount of time you can provide for the plant care, the climate you have, your natural ambience in your home, that really factors in a lot of how you should, what plants you should bring in your home. So that's something I like to give as far as care tips. I know plant foldies, I talk a lot about care tips, and I do appreciate that you guys have actually learned from me. I mean, a lot of my plant care tips have come either from my grandmother, through experience by like sending a lot of plants to Plant Heaven, trial and error, and just doing research online and asking other plant enthusiasts about their plant care tips. But as you can see here, plant foldies, I'm just showing you different types of succulents. What I like about it is a lot of the succulents at a big box store like Lowe's are pretty cost effective. Like this one is for $6.84. We have some for $9.98. People will actually take several different types of succulents and make a succulent arrangement. There's particular succulents that I gravitate to, and it's really aeoniums. I like pink succulents. I like succulents with like pink or cream variegation. I also like this type of succulent right over here. This one's for $6.84. Look at that like lavender look on it. And I also like succulents that have more of an iridescent sheen to it. So again, it really just goes with your preference. There is a different color palette for plants. Specifically for succulents, that's what I gravitate to. But as you can see here, as I go big box store plant shopping at night, it is very peaceful. I love just being able to like stroll around the aisles and not have to worry about getting people in my my videos. That's one thing I will always do whenever I go plant shopping, is to not get people in my videos. I want to respect people's privacy, and I just want to get wider angles so I can get bigger wide footages of the plants. And then you can see here succulents for any occasion, so they already have some succulent arrangements ready to go over here. That's actually not a bad looking succulent arrangement. And then we have a bunch of starter succulents here. I also have this succulent here. I do like this. This is a Crusala or Jade Lemon Lime. Look at that variegation. This one looks to be a little bit dehydrated, so even succulents will get dehydrated. One thing I will also say about succulents is, if possible, try not to water the actual foliage of the succulent. Like, you don't want to take a hose and spray it down if possible. You want to water from the base of the succulent, because if the water stays on the succulent too long, it can actually rot the succulent. I've actually done that as well. So that's something I learned over the years of just trying to grow succulents. And that's probably the reason why I haven't gotten into succulents, is because the success rate of me growing succulents hasn't always been the best. So I tend to gravitate to plants that tend to love me back a little bit more, if that makes any sense. But plant foliage, you can see here, as I do more of these shopping videos, I want to just show you certain products that I use. Like you can see right here, this Miracle Grow Quick Start, for instance. I use that a lot for my my rooted water propagations whenever I'm putting them in a soil substrate. And then we also have different types of soils and orchid bark here. So I like to make my soil mix a little bit more chunky. So this is actually the exact orchid bark I use whenever I mix that into my potting mix. This is the Phalaenopsis Orchid Potting Mix by Better Grow. I love this one as well because it has charcoal, and it also has a lot of pumice and perlite in it, so that really makes it a fast draining and chunky aeroid mix or potting mix for my plants. I tend to do that just because sometimes I've been at least in the past, and you'd be surprised, is I used to be an overwaterer, or somebody that just waters my plants more so than they need to, and I have actually been an extreme underwaterer. So if you have if I have a plant in my collection, though, they tend to go through drought spells. But now we're in the inside section, the indoor section, and I'm looking at some of these live trend planters. In my previous Lowe's video, I did feature a lot of the new planters that they have. Now, Live Trends sources to Lowe specifically, they have a lot of these plants that they showcase. They also source out to grocery stores, but if you're going to want these larger new modern planters, you want to go to Lowe's for Live Trends plants. You can see right here, for instance, is some type of alocasia. This one has several plants as well. And then whenever you go big box store plant shopping, or at least for me, I like to inspect the plants to see if there are several plants in one planter. I feel like you get more value from it. You'll get a more full plant, or if you want to separate it, you can do that as well to get more plants. But you can see these are for $24.98. Live Trends has some of the best modern contemporary planters. One of the stylish planters, like this one is an older planter, but I do love this Ficus lyrata here, or fiddle fig leaf. This is also for $24.98. Look at how large the leaves are on this fiddle fig leaf. For me, this tends to be a slower growing plant. Mine is doing okay. I have had a couple of leaves drop. It's because I didn't water that plant consistently. And what I mean by it, ficus plants like consistency. So if I'm watering it like once a week, it needs to stay on schedule at least once a week. Otherwise, if you let it like not be watered for like 3 weeks and then you completely soak it, it doesn't like that as well. So there's just certain plants that like more consistency, if that makes any sense. And then over here, another live transplant. This is a Zenzi ZZ plant. This is more of the compact ZZ plant. I like this as well. And this one, I believe, is for $16.98. A really nice compact plant, one of the easiest plants to take care of. ZZ plants in general are super easy because they're low light tolerant and they are drought tolerant. So there's not a lot of care for them. Now, obviously, if you give it more bright indirect light, they're going to grow a little bit faster. Now, over here, we have a philodendron moonlight. This is one of my favorite philodendrons. This is for $24.98. Look at that nice neon green foliage. Now, if you give it a little bit more bright light, it's going to actually give you more of a yellowish tone. With neon color plants like this, I say that you really need to give it a lot of bright indirect light for them to really maintain that coloration. Otherwise, it'll tend to be a little bit more on the greener side. That goes for like the neon pothos, a philodendron lemon lime, all of those neon color plants. I would just recommend giving it more light. And then over here is another live transplanter. This one is a Philodendron Summer Glory, and I have two Philodendron Summer Glories. Such a beautiful philodendron, and what I like about it is the new leaves actually unfurl to be a more of caramel color, and then when it hardens, it becomes this satin shine leaf. They get really large leaves as well, and I like that it's a pretty moderate grower. It's not the most vigorous grower, but it is another easy to care for philodendron. And then you can see right here, Live Trends has these like face planters, which I think is really cool because look at that. Look at the detail of that planter, and it has an easy to care for plant. This is some type of Sansevieria, but this is one that I believe is easier to care for as compared to like the Sansevieria trifasciata. Sansevieria, or what you call a snake plant, is another plant that is marketed as a low light tolerant plant. I will say that's one of the bigger mistakes because people will pretty much put them in complete darkness. That is not what you want to do with any plant. You want to make sure that a plant gets the best lighting condition. So if you're able to give them bright indirect light, that's really what I would do. Now, if you have a darker space in your home and you can't really provide like a grow light, I would recommend putting more of a plant that can tolerate it. That is the key word. It can tolerate the lower light conditions. It wouldn't necessarily grow as fast if you do give it like lower light conditions. Like for instance, this one right here is another Live Trends. Now this one is for $16.98. This one is another Sansevieria bird's nest variety. So this one is a little bit more compact, more round by Live Trends. Now the thing about Live Trends is I love the planters, but I really dislike the fake moss that it has as like a top dressing. I just wish that they would find something else for that, but that's really the only critique. I mean, I still think it's pretty, but I just wouldn't put it on my plants because I said this before, if you put like top dressing fake moss as like a top covering for your soil, when you water it, it's going to keep the soil surface a little bit more wet, which makes it a higher potential for root rot. Now over here is a golden pothos, or Epipremnum aureum golden pothos, and I am on a pothos kick. I love pothos plants because they are so easy to take care of. That is another plant that I would recommend for anybody that's starting a houseplant collection. Even if you are a seasoned veteran, if somebody that grows like super rare plants, I still think you should have a pothos plant. Like that Live Trends planter too is such a beautiful planter. And then as I pan away over here, so it doesn't look like this Lowe's has a lot of the plants. I will give this Lowe's credit though. Most of their plants are pretty healthy looking and they still have a selection for it. I mean, even this beautiful alocasia right here, I love that. And if you haven't seen my Indonesian Green Spaces ID import, I got a beautiful alocasia scalphorum, which I discovered is actually endemic or native to my home country, which is the Philippines. That is where my family is originally from. So I was super excited about that. You can see right over here, this is some type of philodendron. This might be a philodendron red imperial. I like this as well. The new leaves come out or unfurl as more of like a red tone about it. This is also for $24.98 by Live Trends. So what a nice dark foliage plant. This is another plant that I would recommend. Philodendrons in general, unless you get the more fuzzy or, you know, velvety texture philodendron, those are some of the easiest plants to take care of. They just really have the same type of care tips for most philodendron, which is bright indirect light, water when the soil is completely dry. If you can give them higher humidity, do so. If they are a climbing philodendron, you want to give it a moss pole, some type of stake for it to climb. That way the philodendron will give you the best leaves. You know, you have to really try to emulate the natural environment. So knowing the plant's natural growth pattern is best. Otherwise, you're not going to give it, at least the plant's not going to give you the best potential of what the plant can really grow into. This one right here is for $14.98. These are the blooming anthuriums, and these are the common anthuriums. Now, there are so many varieties of anthuriums. These ones, though, are the ones that just really bloom a little bit more profusely. And then over here, we have some very tiny ponytail palms. So you can see that there's about 6 plants in that one. That is only for $16.98. And then this is an Exotic Angels Costa Farms plant. This is a some type of Fittonia for $16.98. A nice full hanging basket. Now, as beautiful as this Fittonia is, I'm not going to add this to my collection anymore because it is a plant that needs a lot of water. So knowing that I don't really water my plants as much, I want to get a plant that's a little bit more drought tolerant. So in case I am not able to get to my plant chores, it'll be a little bit more forgiving. Now, this is such a common plant, and I say common because every time I've gone to a big box store, which is pretty much every day, I see teddy bear vines. What a beautiful plant. I love the texture of the leaves. It's got that velvety texture, fuzzy texture. Now with this plant, I would assume that this would need a little bit more light for it to be not leggy, and if it does get leggy, you can just trim it off and you can actually promote more growth that way. It is also another plant that's easy to propagate. And then I've seen this Hoya carnosa crimson, no, actually, it's Hoya carnosa tricolor. This was actually here when I was at this Lowe's about a week ago. So it hasn't sold through. This is for $20.98. It has started to kind of wrap its leaves around the hanging basket. So as you can see, Hoyas also either want to climb or find something to attach itself with. Beautiful plant. Hoyas I actually like because I didn't realize that they were actually easy to take care for. They do like a brighter light conditions. They are drought tolerant, or at least have been for me. I mean, I literally didn't water my Hoya for a month. The leaves got super shrivelry, but then they just shriveled up a little bit more is what I'm trying to say. And then after I watered them within 24 hours, it started to look like this again. So I'm hoping that either this will go on clearance or somebody will buy it, because I would hate for this plant, which looks like it's still living its best life, to just go in the trash. And that's the thing, plant foldies. Whenever I go to big box stores, I'm always saddened by the fact that a lot of these plants may not make it to homes. And when you think about the amount of plants and the amount of time it took to grow these plants, the carbon footprint, the amount of pollution that's created from the plastic, it just is a little bit scary in a sense, because there's just so much put into these plants. So I like to do big box store plant shopping videos to encourage people to go out and buy these plants. Not all of these plants will get rescued. And, I thought about doing like a rescue video for big box stores. But the only thing about it is, when a plant is in clearance, it's pretty much on the brink of making it to plant heaven. And the thing about that is, when a plant is not as healthy looking, it releases pheromones for that basically signify to pests that it's vulnerable. So whenever you buy like a clearance plant, or one that's got like leaves that are dying or just doesn't look healthy, you have to know that it's probably got plant pests, which is a risk whenever you're bringing them in your plant collection, because you're going to bring pests into your home, which could cause more damage. So there's just a lot of pros and cons to just clearance plants. Like the biggest con would be the plant pests, and then just the amount of time to rehab the plant. The biggest pro would be that you're getting plants for a really good discounted price. So there's just a lot to think about that, and that's the reason why I plant foldies. If you didn't watch my video from my premiere last night on my birthday, my import edition where I got plants from Indonesia shipped to me, and even though that the plants were super healthy, I still took time to spray down the leaves, make sure that I disinfect it with my Plant Foldy pest preventative spray. That's what you want to do whenever you're going to big box stores. Like I'm picking up these crotons, for instance. Say if I were to buy this croton, this one I think is for $5.98. I would definitely spray down the tops of the leaves, the bottoms of the leaves, the top of the soil, the bottom of the pot, the drainage area, to make sure that there aren't any pests just lingering around. I would also still quarantine them for a little bit just to make sure that you don't introduce plant pests. So Plant Foldies, I do ask this question: what plant pests have you struggled with? What did you do to get rid of the plant pests? If you also have plant pests questions, please leave that in the comments. Plant Foldies, that's the one thing I do appreciate from you guys, is whenever I ask for requests or things, you guys really deliver through. I've noticed that a lot of the videos have now gotten more than 100 comments by the end of these live premieres, and when I say that comments really do help push my plant videos to more plant lovers like you, it really does. Same thing with hitting the like button. I hope that you can take the time to at least hit the like button. It's super easy to just hit the like button. That really signifies that I am doing a pretty good job providing these daily plant content. So just a little shameless plug, and just to give you guys updates. You already know I like to keep it organic and super real when it comes to my plant shopping videos or just any of my content in general. I really don't have a script. I just utilize this as almost like a personal blog, as if I was just walking around these aisles and we're hanging out and I'm basically talking your ear off for about an hour. But I do appreciate those that constantly come and watch my videos. But you can see here, $16.98 for this Tradescanthia Burgundy. This one's actually pretty full and nice and thick, because a lot of times Tradescanthia, especially that particular variety, can be a little bit more of on the leggy side. And then over here, this is a beautiful Hoya carnosa. This is just the Hoya carnosa Crimson Princess. Look at that variegation. It's absolutely stunning. It's probably one of the most common Hoyas you'll find. You typically will find that even as a Vigoro hanging basket at Home Depot, or just even Lowe's and Walmart. I love this. This one's for $20.84. So this one's by Costa Farms. I just wish that Costa Farms would release even more hanging baskets of different types of Hoyas. I've seen the Hoya Wayeti I released a couple of times, and there's just a few others, but more diversity in Hoyas at big box stores, I would really like to see that. And then you can see right here, this is the Montana hanging basket. I don't think this is actually, well, I'm not sure what this fern is. I just know that this is a fern. This one is for $16.94, and I do prefer the 5.5 inch planters of hanging baskets versus the 6-inch ones. I think they're a little bit more cost effective. And you can see right here, Urban Jungle has some new planters. Look at that hanging basket. That one is, I believe, for $18 or maybe $20.84, somewhere around that range. But this is a legitimate Epiprinum aureum, pearls and jade. So it looks similar to an Enjoy, but what you can see is pearls and jade tends to have more of a cream variegation. And the biggest difference is, notice the leaves have more of speckling versus sectoral or like very high contrast variegation. That's the Enjoy, but this is a beautiful pearls and jade. You will also notice that the green on the pearls and jade tends to be more of a pastel green color versus a deep green. So that's how you can tell a pearls and jade versus an Enjoy pothos. This is a new Urban Jungle hanging basket. Let's take a look and confirm the pricing for that. That is for $20.84. So not a bad price for the planter. Now, I just wish the planter didn't really have a lot of texture on it. I tend to like planters that are a little bit more just smooth and solid in its surface. And then you can see right here, more new Urban Jungle planters and plants. So this one right here is for $13.84. I like the look of this Calathea. And, you know, Calatheas, they're such a tease. They're so stunning whenever you're taking a look at them at a big box store. But then when you take them home, at least from my experience, they just never do well for me. They are the biggest plants that have broken my heart, aside from a Hydra Helix. or an English ivy. Those two plants are some of the most challenging plants to grow indoors, but this right here is an urban jungle planter, new planter. I really like the look of it, and I also like how they use the UB as like an urban jungle like brand on it. I think that's really cool. I like the color of the planter. I could also work with the texture of it. It's got not that much texture. I also like planters that don't have a lot of texture. If you're to ask me, I like terracotta planters, planters that are matte finishes, planters that are very simple in their shape. So basically just modern contemporaries, what I'm getting at. That's really the aesthetic for my planters. But you can see Urban Jungle has some new plants. We've got some Pachira aquatica, and then we have this Alocasia poly. Now this Alocasia is more of a common Alocasia you'll find. Unfortunately, with Alocasia poly, for some reason this particular Alocasia tends to get spider mites. Like you can see that there's some yellowing on there, so I'm not sure if it's a plant pest or something of that nature. But you can see here is another common but beautiful Aglaonema. This is an Aglaonema red Siam, also known as an Aglaonema aurora, also mistaken as an Aglaonema creta. So there's just a lot of names for this particular plant. What I do know is if you are watching my videos and haven't gotten an Aglaonema, consider getting an Aglaonema. I am all about trying to plant influence a lot of the plant foldies. So just try plants that you may not have really thought about getting. This is such an easy plant to grow. Any Aglaonema is actually easy to grow. They are marketed as low light tolerant, but honestly, they need to be in bright indirect light to really give you the best coloration. And then over here, we have a Peperomia obtusifolia. This has some subtle green on green variegation. This is also for $13.98. I will say that this particular Peperomia is another easy to care for plant. It's another plant, the Peperomia obtusifolia, I would recommend as a starter plant for any beginner who is getting into houseplants. Now, if you give it more light, it will actually push out more of the variegation. And then over here for $13.98, this is the older variety of planters by Urban Jungles. I do like the texture of it. I think it's endearing and cute. It's just not one I would put in my collection, but you can see that this one is a really cute ponytail palm with several ponytail palms in it. I would say there's about 8 plants in there. So for $13.98, divide that by 8, you can actually separate the ponytail palms and have several plants. So that's something to take a look at. And then this is another Epipremnum aureum, golden pothos. And again, golden pothos, it's just an easy to care for plant. It will actually let you know when it needs water. It'll start to have some droopy leaves. I wouldn't push the boundary though on putting that in a drought spell. You want to make sure that you're watering your pothos plant consistently. And then this is another favorite plant of mine. This is a philodendron lemon lime. Look at how beautiful that Urban Jungle planter is. And I also like just the fact that this is another plant, surprisingly, that I don't have in my plant collection just yet. It is a neon colored plant. This is another philodendron that does like to climb up. So you want to make sure that you put it on a moss pole or a stake for it to really get you some nice large leaves and really emulate the natural environment of that particular philodendron. So more light for it as well. Now here is another Urban Jungle hanging basket ceramic planter. Like the look of this philodendron hederaceum Brazil. Look at that neon green variegation. Again, with more light, this philodendron hederaceum will give you some better variegation, and that's a lot with a lot of those trailing philodendron. And you can see more Urban Jungle plants. This is some more new planters in 6-inch planters. I really like this, that Urban Jungle is actually carrying philodendron Summer Glory. And if you notice, a lot of these nurseries like Live Trends, Urban Jungle, Costa Farms, they've really started to release some more of these philodendron Summer Glory. That is another philodendron I would recommend. I do think that this philodendron is actually super underrated as well. Not a lot of people just run to get it. And then you can see right here for $22.84. This is another philodendron. I don't know if this is a philodendron Macaulay's Finale or a philodendron Prince of Orange, but look at how beautiful that leaf is as it unfurls. You can see that it's got that like orange tone to it, and then we have a golden yellow tone right over here. Look at how beautiful that is. And I also love how the stems are a burgundy color, and then the leaves end up hardening to a nice satin shiny green. So there's a lot of leaf interest, a lot of color interest in the leaf. Like that a lot. And then right over here we have another type of Dieffenbachia, and I actually want to get some more Dieffenbachia into my collection. They are a little bit more of a finicky plant when grown indoors. They do need a lot of light. They are spider mite prone, but if you grow Dieffenbachia in a tropical environment, like such as the Philippines, they just grow like weeds. They don't they can take full sun, they just grow outside, and it's just amazing. So plant foldies, especially if you're new to my channel, please check out my playlist of plant tourism. I have several videos aside from big box store content where I travel to the Philippines and show you plants like these Dieffenbachia, for instance, in their natural habitat. It's just an interesting look of what these plants look like in their natural environment. And that also wanted to let you guys know that as I do these plant shopping videos, this will be the main staple of content, but I will be starting to show you guys my house plant tour. I'll give you some more plant care tips. I might do some live streams. There's just more content in the works, so just stay tuned to that. And I am excited that we are so close to getting to 10,000 subscribers. I'm hoping within the next week or two we can get to 10,000 subscribers. We're about 50 to 40 subscribers short of 10,000 subscribers. So for those that have followed my journey so far, thank you. And for my new plant foldies, my new subscribers, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe with the notification bell on. Just make sure that you click on that. That way it's not personalized notifications. It'll be notifications for every video I post, whether it is a live premiere or even a shorts YouTube video. But as you guys can see right here, plant foldies, we've seen an Alocasia golden dragon. We've got a Ficus lyrata right over here. All of these are new urban jungle planters. So if anything, at least this Lowe's has gotten some new plants from urban jungle. I like that a lot. I mean, right over here, we have another palm. This is super cute as well. Now with palms, again, you want to make sure this is a Neanthe Bella palm. You want to make sure that this plant actually gets a lot of bright light. Most palms really require a lot of bright light, and that's the reason why I don't really have palms in my collection, because they have they take up a lot of space. And for my premium lighting conditions, I want to give it to some of my plants that really require light. So I have a bunch of like Monstera Thai constellations, for instance, that I want to give some light to. I've got some Ficus plants. I've got some Hoyas. So those are where I reserve my best lighting. My south-facing windows, my east-facing windows, for instance, is where I would put that. But palms do need that type of lighting condition. Now, a plant that doesn't really need a lot of bright indirect light that can tolerate it is a Raven ZZ. What a beautiful plant, $19.84. And then we just have the common ZZ plant. Now, this one is for $15.97. Both plants that I just picked up, plant foldies, I would add to a plant collection, because while they're a little bit more of a slower growing plant, I think they're slower growing if you put them in lower light conditions. They are so easy. Like I literally didn't water my plant for a month and those ZZ plants did fine. So I just, again, cannot stress to you about easy care plants that can basically thrive with neglect, because at the end of the day, plants in their native environments don't really require what you call plant care. Mother Nature takes care of them. That's really the plant care. So I've decided that, well, not even decided, I've thought about just some of the plants that I have. I just want to make sure that there's very much a little plant care to them. The only plant care I will pretty much invest myself into is just making sure the plants are inspected for plant pests, because that is something that's naturally occurring with plants that are grown indoors. It's just plant pests, because when you think about it, there aren't any natural predators to get rid of these plant pests when grown indoors. So you just want to make sure that you search for that. So my constant weekly neem oil sprays, what I really do with my plants is I take them to the shower. I use the shower head, spray them down with water them completely, let them dry off a little bit, and then I'll either fertilize them with some of my liquid fertilizer Miracle Grow, And then after I do that, I take my Plant Foldy mist spray, this neem oil spray, and spray the tops of the leaves, the bottoms of the leaves, the stems, around the pot, the top of the pot, to really make sure that I kill any potential pests. And it has done very well for me. I would say this season of growing houseplants, I haven't had any huge pest outbreaks. You know, for a little while, I was starting to get some mealy bugs and then also some fungus gnats, but I haven't seen them for quite some time now. So super excited about that. But as you can see, guys, see right here, Plant Foldies, there aren't nearly as many plants at this Lowe's. I am excited to see this though. Look at that. There's 3 Aglaonema red cymes here, and this is for $15.98. I have actually separated Aglaonemas like this before, because what's cool about these Aglaonema is they shoot out babies or little pups as it matures, and you can get more of a full plant that way. Now with Aglaonema, they say that they are more low light tolerant. I would still give them bright light though, because when they are in lower light conditions, they tend to get a little bit more leggy. Now the natural inclination for an Aglaonema is for it to eventually get a little bit leggy as the trunk starts to get a little bit more thick. That's just really the natural habitat way of doing it. And then you can see right here, Costa Farms plant. This one is a geo plant for $19.84. I love the dark foliage. I just don't know a lot about the plant, so I'm going to do some more research on that, but it might be a plant I may eventually add, although I heard it is a little bit more of a finicky plant, so I may steer away from that. I really just want plants that will bring me a little bit more joy, get me excited, de-stress me rather than stress me, because when I was looking at some of the plant YouTubers from a couple years back, I remember seeing so many plant YouTubers just really show all of these plants, but then I realized even in 2024 they're not really doing a lot of content, so I'm not sure if they just lost interest in plants or if the amount of plants they had were stressful. I would say that for a while I was stressed a little bit because of the amount of plants I put in my plant collection, but I can't really help it, because whenever you go to a big box store, you want to buy plants. Like this one right here is the next location. I'm going to Walmart off of North Custer Road in McKinney, Texas. So this one is literally maybe a minute or 2 south of the Lowe's location I went to. So we're gonna just see what plants that they have here. Again, this is being filmed in the first week of August, so I want to see if there's any new plants, if there's any plants at all. I know this particular location has really downsized on the plants, but we'll take a look at it. I am gonna just walk over to the outdoor section, and if you made it this far, Plant Foldies, please make sure again that you're hitting the like button. Let me know in the comments what you think of the plants you saw at Lowe's, and ask me any questions in the comments section. Again, I love engagement, and I love just answering questions. I feel valued when you guys actually leave those comments for me. So a couple of plant products I want to show you. So we have the neem oil concentrate. That's what some people use, but honestly, all of these neem oil extracts or neem max, these are what most people will use, but honestly, I would not use these neem oil extracts. I would rather get the full neem oil cold press. That's the pure neem oil if you're going to make the Plant Foldy mist spray. So just wanted to show you some other alternatives, but it's really easy just to go on Amazon and order the neem oil cold press rather than to buy the extracts. But as you guys can see here, right off the bat, this Walmart doesn't have nearly as many plants in their outdoor garden section. I still am going to walk over here and talk about the plants. Like about a week ago, we'll see what we'll do for that, but we are going to figure that out right here. You can see right here, this is a Costa Farms plant. This is a Majesty Palm for $24.84. Majesty Palms do like a lot of light, so even putting it out here wouldn't be too bad for it. Now, I will say you want to make sure that your palm or any palm trees are watered regularly. They don't really want to be going through drought sprouts if you can help it. And then over here we have some vinca flowers, Plant Foldies. Vinca flowers, that's something that if you live in a southern state or a place where it gets really hot, that is a drought tolerant, heat tolerant, vigorous growing flowering plant. that you can use in flower beds. It definitely needs full sun. And then you can see here oleanders. Look at how it's already in bloom. The oleanders are super toxic plants. You just have to make sure that you never ingest the leaves. You want to keep your pets from eating the leaves because it is highly toxic. And you can see here, plant foldies, we do have just a little bit of these coleus, and this coleus right here is for $6.97 by Garden Expert, which is pretty much Walmart's garden brand or plant brand. And then you can see there's just not as many plants here. It is super hot, so I'm not going to stay too much out in the sun or out in this section because it is literally 100 degrees as I'm filming it, and I am getting exposed to a lot of sun, so I will keep this area brief. But you can see this one is another aloe vera plant for $4.97. It's got some really interesting edges on the leaves. I don't have any aloe vera plants in my personal collection, much less any succulent plants, but I like to show y'all some succulent plants because there are some plant foldies that appreciate it, and I want to give you guys some diverse content when it comes to some of the plants I'm featuring at my big box store plant shopping videos. Let me know in the comment section actually what succulents you guys are growing. If you like succulents, if you don't like succulents, why don't you like succulents? I want to know it all. But this particular succulent though, right here, this particular echeveria, I really like a lot just because of the color. It's got a nice, beautiful pastel color. And then look at the shape of this echeveria or succulent plant as well. This one's for $4.97. Now, Walmart, I would dub as being the most cost effective when it comes to succulents or cactus. If you're able to buy, succulents or cactus from Walmart, I think you'll get the most cost effective pricing. Although I will say at Home Depot or just shopping during the summer months, a lot of these big box stores, maybe even Walmart, will discount or liquidate their plants. So you'll get some summer plant pricing. That's probably one of the best times to shop for certain plants. Because they will either put them for like 30% off or 50% off. So that's another alternative to actually plant budgeting, is just waiting in the summer to buy certain plants. I am surprised that a lot of these lantana, for instance, are not on clearance yet. Actually, this is for only $8.78. That's not a bad price at all. You already know that I love lantanas because I have filled my garden outdoor landscape with them, and they have been doing so well for me. They require very, very little care, but they provide so much reward. Like, look at how beautiful those flowers are. Actually, I'm not surprised that these are not on clearance yet because I feel like this is more of a summer type plant because of how drought tolerant, how heat tolerant this plant is. And you can see there's so many different varieties of lantana. I think I'm going to grow white lantana out in my front landscape for next year just because I have white trim on my home and I think it would actually match it. But look at how beautiful the pink, for instance, on the lantana is, as well as the yellow. So just lots of beautiful interest for this plant. And it's another plant that I just think for those that have southern gardens or people that live in very hot climates, that's what you want to add. And then you can see here, these are tropical hibiscus. So these are hibiscus that really will not grow in my grow zone. You would need to grow those in a planter. But look at how pretty this one is. This one's for $17.88. I would totally buy this if this was on clearance and try to overwinter it because look at how beautiful that bloom is. It's got a lot of coloration on it. They have what they call hardy hibiscus, which are native hibiscus that are actually perennials, especially even in my grow zone. But those are the tropical type hibiscus. Now, plant foliage, I'm going to walk over here and take a look at some of the larger foliage plants. Now, these are all plants with benefits, but they are sourced out by Costa Farm. So these are basically Costa Farm plants. These are Monstera deliciosas. That is the OG Monstera, $24.98. And actually, that's not a bad price for these Monsteras. They don't really have a lot of cosmetic damage to the leaves because sometimes whenever you see these big Monsteras, there's a lot of leaf torn or some of the new leaves unfurling are not healthy. So if you want just a green form Monstera that's going to give you a lot of joy, Monstera deliciosa is a plant I would recommend Just remember though, if you're going to bring a Monstera deliciosa into your home, it will get very large. So you're going to have to plan for the space when it eventually gets to become a very large plant. I think that's a lot of times we forget that these small plants we buy as starter planters at a big box store or local nursery will get pretty big in size eventually. So space constraints is another factor. I would recommend plant foldies whenever you're bringing plants to your home. Now this one for $10.97 is another golden pothos. Like I said in all my videos, every single time I touch a pothos is you want to make sure that you put that in your plant collection. I think it's such an easy to care for plant. It's a plant that every plant foldie should have in their plant collection because it's so easy and you can propagate it. And I just feel like it's such an underrated plant. I think some plant collectors might be a little snooty when it comes to pothos plants. They might just think it's too basic, but basic is great. Basic and easy care plants are what we all need, because then we don't get disappointed when a plant dies, because for the most part, unless you are legitimately neglecting it or trying to kill a pothos plant, especially a golden pothos, this plant is almost indestructible. So plant foldies, let me know in the comments if you agree with me. I haven't really had any pothos plants die on me. The only time a pothos plant has ended up in plant heaven is when I've literally put it outdoors in full Texas heat and it just fried. That's basically it. And then over here we have a Pachira aquatica, or a money tree plant. Now this one is for $14.97. I am looking for a variegated version of this at PlantCon. And again, plant foldies, I'm super excited that we're all going to meet up at PlantCon. I just want to meet you guys in person. You know, it's always nice to interact with the people that I make plant content for. I've already run into a couple of you guys whenever I go to like local plant nurseries out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I am excited to meet some of the plant foldies that might be traveling from out of town or even flying in. Travis, you are awesome. You are one of my biggest plant foldie supporters. I can't wait to meet you. And then you can see right here, this is interesting, $9.97. This is more of an uncommon Dieffenbachia. This is a Dieffenbachia crocodile. So Costa Farms will actually feature that as a trending tropicals plant for $19.84, but Walmart is selling this for $9.97. I was almost tempted to get this Dieffenbachia, but for today at least, I'm gonna hold off from spending money on plants. I want to save my money on PlantCon plants, so we'll see what that looks like. And again, I really don't want to add a lot of plants, at least in the next 2 weeks, because I am trying to prepare my space for the potential plants I buy at PlantCon, which will most likely be some uber rare, some really cool looking plants. So if you haven't gotten tickets to PlantCon, I would recommend doing it. You can either do the general admission tickets, which are very cost effective, or you can do the early bird special where you go into PlantCon 2 hours early from the general public. If you're a diehard plant collector, I would recommend doing that. That way you can get access to the best plants and do your purchasing that way. So that's just something I would recommend. And I really hope you guys would consider going to PlantCon. And then over here, plant foldies, for some reason, this Walmart never runs out of Monstera Perus. These are all trending tropicals Costa Farms plants for $19.84. Monstera Peru, what a beautiful plant. I really like the texture of the leaves, and it's a very easy to care for plant. Same thing with all of these ZZ plants right over here. I will commend this Walmart for at least trying to keep some of the plant organization neat, you know, by putting them the same plants together. I think that's a really good way of displaying the plants especially at a big box store. There's a particular Walmart I go to where they literally have all of the plants jumbled up, and it is a disorganized mess. I just wish that they would have like organized it like this Walmart, for instance. This Walmart is really good about doing that, and I have found some really cool plants in the last couple of months here. Like I've found a philodendron golden crocodile, I've found a philodendron, just all sorts of really cool plants that I wouldn't have expected. And I have actually been lucky when they actually did plant restock. So that's another thing, plant foldies, if you're able to get lucky and walk in during a restock where they basically have a palette of new plants, that is the best time to buy your plants, because they are super fresh, they are super healthy, and there's a better selection. Now over here again is another Monstera deliciosa. Like that one looks like a really nice one for $24.98. I am almost tempted to buy another Monstera deliciosa. I have 2 growing for me currently. I used to have a lot more Monstera deliciosas, but they ended up getting infested with mealy bugs, and it was just very hard for me to get rid of the mealy bugs. So that's another plant that I just want to try to at least get to thrive for me. Now with Monstera deliciosas, you want to provide it with a lot of bright indirect light for it to really do well. But plant foldies, as you can see here, we have some more healthy looking ZZ plants, ZZ Raven plants. You can see that the new leaves end up becoming dark eventually as it hardens. And then we have some Scindapsus Trubii Moonlight. This is another plant I do want to add to my collection. I see that in all of my big box plant shopping videos. I just haven't invested spending the money. I mean, for $19.84, it's really not a bad plant price. And then you can see right here, this is a Ficus Audrey, and this has been here for quite some time. It looks like it's lost some of its leaves, but it looks like it's also pushed out a new shoot. So that's encouraging to see. I hope maybe somebody will rescue it and buy it. And then over here, we have by Growers Bench a bunch of the Philodendron Ring of Fires. This is now a common philodendron in my opinion, just because you can see that at any big box stores, I've actually bought this at a clearance price for $7 at this particular location. So sometimes I just wait it out. I'm not going to spend $24.47 for full price anymore. I did earlier this season, but I was able to buy these philodendron, which are absolutely gorgeous, for $7. So maybe in another week or two, if I come back, these might be on clearance and I'll probably buy all of them. I may even do them as plant gifts as well. So that would be awesome as well. That would be really cool. And then over here, we have some of those sago palms with the new growth. And then over here is an interesting looking Monstera deliciosa. You can see right here, I don't know if it's a nutrient deficiency, but look at how it's got some of that interesting veining on it. I really like the look of the leaf as well. And then over here, we have some more Monstera deliciosas. Again, these are for $24.98. That's actually not a bad price for a fairly established Monstera deliciosa. These are moderate growers, so they grow pretty moderate. They're definitely not a slow grower, especially if you're providing it with quite a bit of light. If you're able to give it a totem pole or moss pole to climb, it will also start to fenestrate like that. Really like the look of that plant. And then I just wanted to show you a couple more of these Dieffenbachias. These are the Dieffenbachia maculatas. Now, the thing about Dieffenbachia maculata is it does need a lot of light. So plant foldies, if you like this video today, please make sure you are hitting that like button. This was just another big box store video just to see what plants we have available. As always, also subscribe to my channel. This is Richie. I will have another brand new video for you tomorrow. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a good one.